Yo, 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 yo. Good morning, everyone. It's Chris, recapping from Twitter, from YouTube. Wanted to make a quick morning cap video again. Hadn't done so in about a week. Got cleaned up yesterday, man. The books got me. I went 0-2 yesterday. Tobias Harris rebound 7.5, trash. Philly was not able to score. Miami put the clamps on them in the second half defensively. I think held them to 38% shooting. They only scored 38 points in the second half. So, all the James Harden unders cash, whether you took his PRAs or his points. Really strong lean to his under 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists, but I didn't play it. Moving on, we saw Devin Booker have the offense run through him for the Phoenix Suns last night, and Phoenix able to get a nice win. They end up covering the point spread. I think it was 6.5. They ended up winning by 7. So shout out to the backers who believed in Phoenix last night. We saw some weird things with DeAndre Ayton rebounds, which was another miss of mine. Having 0 in the first quarter. I think he finished with 8, 10, 9, something like that. But he didn't get the 10. I know he didn't get the 10. And Chris Paul finishing the game with 3 assists. Crazy game. The books absolutely cleaned up. I think it's worth mentioning. I talked about it in the last YouTube video that I made, but reducing your unit size. The playoffs are highly volatile. Game ones are highly volatile. So reducing your unit size, reducing the number of bets that you place on a daily basis is only going to be helpful. It's only going to be helpful for you because small wins are better than losses, right? So just some things to kind of take into consideration as we move forward. We got 2 games tonight. And, that's what I wanted to make the video for, to kind of look ahead, right? So looking ahead tonight, we have the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. This is game 2. You get a line that opened at 4.5 in favor of Boston. It's down to 4 on some sites, but 4.5 is still pretty strong. Get a total that opened at 215.5. It's come down to 214 on some books as well. Injury-wise, Marcus Smart's kind of banged up. I do expect him to play. He's listed as questionable on the injury report. With the quadricep injury, I think. But he's banged up. He's a couple different injuries. Jaylen Brown is also expected to play, but that hamstring looked like it might have been giving him some problems. Shout out to Milwaukee's defense as well. And then, of course, no Chris Middleton on the opposite end of that one. The Bucks looked extremely poised, especially defensively in the second half of, game number 1 in Boston. Stifling defense, not what we saw from them during the regular season. So we'll see if they're able to keep that defensive intensity up. I also think you credit, while you do give their defense credit, Boston did miss some shots that were makeable. But what I'm interested to see in this game is how Boston shoots from 3. I think they made 18 3-pointers in the last game, and they'll continue to need to make that many threes, especially with Milwaukee trouting out a big lineup. Those 3 7-footers, Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez. They do a great job protecting the rim. They try to run you off the 3-point line, but they're much more inclined with you shooting from the perimeter than driving into the lane. So what I'm gonna be looking at in this game, man, I think it's a lot of pressure on Boston to get one before traveling to Milwaukee. Even though I'm of the mindset that Boston could go on the road and win as well. I'm looking for Boston specifically, to see how well they do with controlling the pace of this game. I think they turned the ball over 18 times in the first game, and if you listen to the press conference, Udoka was not, the Boston Celtics coach was not happy or pleased with that. This is a team that typically only turns the ball over about 13 times during the regular season. So, something to kind of take into consideration. I know Milwaukee was also able to get out in transition, and they dominated, as far as fast break points. So something else to kind of take into consideration as well. But what I'm going to be looking at is Boston rebounding. Boston has had an edge in rebounding specifically throughout the entire year, right? They finished 5th in rebounding throughout the regular season. 3 of those teams that finished above them, all made the playoffs, but the New York Knicks finished 4th and they did not make the playoffs. So the reason why I bring that up is because Boston is currently 7th out of 16 teams right now in the playoffs in rebounding. Boston was out rebounded in the first game, 54-48, right? And Milwaukee's actually leading the league right now in the playoffs anyway, with being able to rebound, which makes sense because they have all the 7-footers and some guys that can actually go down there and get some rebounds that's not 7 foot. Drew Holiday had 9 rebounds, I think, in the last game. So I'm going to be interested to see who wins the rebounding battle. I do expect Boston to shoot the ball better. I do expect Giannis to actually shoot the ball better. Shout out to Boston's defense for holding them to 9 for 25. But I don't think that we see a Boston team that misses so many wide open shots. I thought they got some wide open looks. Marcus Smart was 1 for 6 from 3. Al Horford knocked down 4 threes, I think, on 9 attempts. I do expect a bounce back performance from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to even play better as well. Pritchard, Grant Williams, I do expect those guys to get some wide open looks and knock them down tonight. But specifically, what I'm looking for the most in this game and the player prop that I've already placed is Giannis Antetokounmpo. His assists are sitting at 6.5. Earlier this morning when I first started my research, it was plus money. Right now, some money's definitely come in on it because it's minus 115. I still like it at the value that I can get at minus 115. 6.5 assists for Giannis just seems a tad bit too low, especially given what he did in the first game. And I don't want to overreact. I don't want people to think I'm overreacting to him having 12 assists in the first game and completing the triple-double. But this is what I'll say. Logically, right? Let's take all the stats out of it. Logically, Giannis Antetokounmpo he's proven that in the first game that he's going to play the right way, right? Like, he's not going to force a bunch of shots. He's going to take what the defense gives him. He's talked about it in the post-game interviews about trusting his teammates and making the right play, right? So I think when you take that into consideration, him playing the right way, not forcing a lot of shots, I think that Boston will continue to shade his way, similar to what they did last round with Kevin Durant. He'll continue to find the wide open guys, right? It doesn't mean that everybody's going to, knock down the shots every single time, but I think he'll have enough opportunities to be able to cash the over 6.5 assists. So I locked that in already. That's logically. Now let me give you guys some statistical reasoning, right? So Giannis is averaging 7.2 assists on 15 assist chances in the 6 playoff games so far this season. And 5 of those games were played without Middleton, right? But more importantly, the reason why I like the number is because he has 17 potential assists in the last game. And typically I'm looking for a conversion rate that's about 50%. So he converted 12 last game, which is a tad bit over 50%, right? So Giannis has another game where he has 17 potential assist opportunities. I'm only looking for a conversion rate about half of those. So about 8.5, right? 8.5 will land me over the 7.5 number. If Giannis finishes with 7 assists tonight, then we cash the bet, right? Also, just taking a deeper dive. Last game, Giannis made 55 passes in the first game. In comparison, that's the 5th most passes that were made through the second round because now we've seen every single team play, right? So in comparison, that's 55 passes that he made. That's the 5th most of any player in round 2, game 1, right? He's only behind Ja Morant, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, and Jason Tatum. And he's ahead of players like Marcus Smart, Steph, Jordan Poole, some of the other guards who you may think might be ahead of him, right? Lastly, Poole, Ja Morant, and Jason Tatum were the only players in game 1 of round 2 that had at least 16 potential assists. And of those 4 guys, 3 of them actually finished with at least 7 assists. Tatum was the only person who didn't finish with at least 7 assists that had the potential to get 16 assists in the first game. And I think we would all agree that Boston missed a bunch of shots and Tatum probably should have finished with 7 assists. So that's what I'm looking at. I got some other strong leans that I like as well. I'll probably end up, playing Robert Williams rebounds back again as well. We cashed on it over 7.5 in the first game. I think he had 7 in the first half. Got nicked up just a tad bit. Only played 22 minutes and still was able to clear 7.5 rebounds. I like him for his presence. I think that he'll be needed to bang down there with the 7-footers and get those rebounds. To be able to protect against the second chance points of Milwaukee as well. So I do expect his minutes to go up, and I would only look towards Robert Williams to go over his 7.5 rebounds, potentially laddering them to 12, I think is also something to take into consideration. But yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo over 6.5 assists is the reason why I wanted to make this video, and the only player prop that I've locked in for this game. Lean-wise, I think the Bucks are still getting too many points. 4.5 just seems like a tad bit too much. I do expect Boston to play well and bounce back in this game, but even if they do, I don't think that they win by 5. And I picked Boston to win the series. I do think that they still could win the series, but I'm not interested in laying 4.5 points with Boston, although I do think that they bounce back today. Hope that makes sense. Good luck on all your picks that you placed today. Also, be sure to leave your best bet down below as well. Whatever you think your best bet is, tell me what it is. Tell me why you think it's going to hit. Good luck on all your bets. The Crispy Captain t-shirts, the black ones, similar to the gray ones that I have on right now, but with some the Crispy Captain community logo on the back as well, are in. And look for a link real soon for anybody who wants to purchase those. There will be a Twitter space today, 5:30 Eastern time as always. Good luck on all your bets. Let's cash.